Kirishima Chikushi was just another talentless student, humiliated in front of everyone and treated like trash for not having any special ability. But everything changed when he entered the dungeon and awakened a skill considered useless: Rule Breaker. What seemed like a weak power was actually hiding something insane. And now, with this ability no one truly understands, he's about to change everything. First, he saved a famous adventurer. Then, he faced a monster that even veteran fighters couldn't defeat. Now, with the eyes of the world on him, Kirishima is done running. Leave a like and subscribe to the Mr. Mangas channel. It helps us a lot. And become a member to watch ad-free videos. Kirishima Chikushi, a young man from the Explorer class, was being brutally humiliated in front of other students. After taking a kick to the back, he fell to his knees. With his body trembling and his face sweaty, he heard the pressure from his aggressors demanding his submission. The leader of the group, clearly taking advantage of the moment to reinforce his superiority, stared at him with contempt, forcing him to beg for forgiveness. Even with a dirty face and his dignity shattered, Kirishima tried to keep his composure, holding back tears and swallowing his pride. As Kirishima remained kneeling, the laughter around him grew louder and more cruel. His classmates mocked him mercilessly, praising Guyama, one of the strongest in the class, who had a rare ability that greatly enhanced his attack power. Compared to him, Kirishima was treated like trash. He had no known abilities, had never even stepped foot in a dungeon, and that was enough to be ridiculed in front of everyone. Each comment was a stab to his self-esteem, exposing his weaknesses as if they were jokes. Even with his soul shattered, Kirishima clenched his fists and swallowed his pride. He bowed, whispering apologies, trying to avoid more aggression. Kirishima bowed to the ground, completely submissive, while the laughter echoed through the halls. Those surrounding him mocked the scene, finding amusement in seeing someone humiliate themselves that way. In their eyes, it was pathetic. For Kirishima, it was just another day of pain. Even after kneeling and begging for forgiveness, he received no compassion. On the contrary, he was kicked hard, as if his existence was disposable. The impact threw him to the ground, dirtying his face and clothes. But what hurt the most wasn't the blow. It was the constant humiliation, the laughter of those watching from afar, doing nothing. As the aggressors continued laughing, thinking of themselves as superior, Kirishima remained on the ground, silent. After everything, a classmate approached and extended a hand to Kirishima, concerned. But ashamed and shaken, he refused the help, saying he was fine. Unable to face her kindness, he hurriedly ran away, apologizing, leaving the girl standing in silence. Running aimlessly, Kirishima was consumed by dark thoughts. His classmates' cruel words echoed in his mind like sharp laughter, tearing apart his confidence. He began to believe everything they said, that he was weak, useless, worthless. Drowning in his own pain, he felt like he had nothing special. No abilities, no talents, just a broken boy trying to survive in a world that didn't want him there. In a world where dungeons had appeared out of nowhere, full of monsters, magic, and treasures, one rule became clear. Only by entering them could humans awaken special abilities. Every person who descended those stairs received a unique power, some weak, others extremely rare. Guyama, for instance, stood out with one of the best abilities ever seen, capable of greatly enhancing his attack power. For him, fate had been generous. Meanwhile, Kirishima, still with nothing, walked among shadows, waiting for the dungeon to give him a chance. When he finally received an ability, Kirishima felt a slight breath of hope, which was soon crushed. His skill, Ignore Rules, only made herbs instantly regrow when picked, something that seemed utterly useless in a world where combat and power dominated everything. Sitting in front of the dungeon entrance, he stared into the emptiness, feeling once again discarded by fate. To others, it was the same as having nothing. Once again, Kirishima was seen as trash. Even though he thought his ability was useless, Kirishima decided not to waste it. Collecting herbs non-stop, he thought about how he could help his family, even if it was just a little. For the first time in days, a small smile appeared on his face. He felt that, with effort, maybe he could move forward. But, just as he finished collecting, a powerful roar echoed from the dungeon. The roar of the creature was soon followed by an alert. An emergency monster had appeared. Kirishima was shocked. This kind of creature was rare and extremely dangerous. Shortly after, he saw something even more frightening. Members of the renowned Kawasaki team, a Class S party, were seriously injured and calling for help. Even the best had been unable to face the creature. Seeing that even elite adventurers had been defeated, Kirishima understood the danger. This creature was not something he could face. Panic took over, and he decided to flee as quickly as possible. But the moment quickly turned into confusion. A floating magical familiar appeared, shouting a sentence of execution for him having attacked the girl. While Kirishima froze in fear, the adventurer herself, smiling naturally, thanked him for receiving a support ticket. To her, it was just part of the routine. But for Kirishima, it was just another chaotic day in a life that had barely started to change. Upon realizing who was in front of him, Kirishima was paralyzed. She wasn't just any adventurer, she was Ayatsuki Miru, a famous dungeon streamer. He could hardly believe it was really her. Nervous, with his heart racing, Kirishima tried to say something, but froze completely. In an awkward impulse, he blurted out the obvious question. If she was really the real Miru. As soon as the words left his mouth, he regretted it, mentally calling himself an idiot. There was no doubt. It was really her. Ayatsuki Miru, an A-rank explorer, owner of the powerful Sword Saint ability, and a famous streamer with over 100,000 followers. Known for her combat strength and charisma, she was adored by everyone, a true celebrity. Kirishima was in front of someone he had only seen through screens. Now, in flesh and blood, her presence was almost unbelievable and completely intimidating. Miru, always charismatic, kindly informed Kirishima with a smile that she was live at the moment. The small floating sphere beside her, full of attitude, reinforced the message. It was better for him to keep his distance. Meanwhile, the live audience skyrocketed. In a matter of minutes, there were over 10,000 viewers watching everything in real time. To her, it was normal. For Kirishima, it was surreal. Excited and confident, Miru enthusiastically announced that she was going to stream her battle against the emergency monster, a rare and perfect opportunity for the audience. Kirishima, still a little lost, confirmed that the monster was indeed in that dungeon. But gradually, the realization set in. He remembered that the same monster had defeated the entire S-rank Kawasaki team. And now Miru, even though she was only rank A, planned to face it alone? Kirishima ran to Miru, trying to stop her from entering the dungeon alone. Desperate, he asked her to at least form a team first. Miru, surprised, asked why he was so concerned. Kirishima, nervous and awkward, tried to explain that he had seen what had happened. He remembered that the Kawasaki party, an elite group, had fled the dungeon just minutes earlier. Upon hearing this, Miru fell silent, surprised. Kirishima, confused by her reaction, began to wonder if he had said something strange. Kirishima insisted, saying it was true. The Kawasaki team had been defeated. But the comments on the live stream mocked him, doubting his words and praising Mr. Kawasaki as invincible. Miru and her familiar began to pay closer attention. She looked more carefully, evaluating Kirishima's expression. Meanwhile, a comment in the chat caught attention. Someone recognized Kirishima as the boy from Tsukishima High, bringing up his past, and with it, all the judgments he wanted to forget. As Miru tried to understand who Kirishima was, the live comments began attacking him. They called him useless, said he had no abilities, and mocked his shyness and social anxiety. The audience judged him mercilessly, accusing him of approaching Miru just to gain attention. They called him trash and laughed at how his face was now visible to the entire country. Kirishima, unable to defend himself, felt the weight of it all. His body trembled, and he could barely contain the anguish. Once again, he was treated as if he had no value at all. Surrounded by criticism, Kirishima could hardly react, suffocated by shame. But then, Miru intervened. She asked the viewers to calm down, explaining that the boy was only trying to help her with good intentions. With a light gesture and a smile, she eased the tension, lightening the mood around Kirishima. Still, she made it clear that she was moving forward. The stream depended on it. Before leaving, she gently said, "Sorry, boy," leaving Kirishima standing, not knowing whether it hurt more or less than the insults. Kirishima tried to call her one last time, but Miru just waved and moved forward, confident, entering the darkness of the dungeon alone. He stood still, unable to say anything more. He just watched her steps fade away until they disappeared completely. The silence that followed was heavy. Alone in front of the dark entrance, Kirishima felt more than ever the emptiness around him. Kirishima lowered his head and tried to convince himself that he had done enough. With no strength to continue, he whispered to himself that it was time to leave. He turned his back on the dungeon, trying to ignore the feeling of helplessness that gripped his chest. Deep down, he believed that even if he entered there, it wouldn't make a difference. With slow steps and a bitter silence, he began to walk away, once again feeling that he was incapable of changing anything. As he walked away, memories of his childhood flooded his mind. Kirishima remembered looking at his father with admiration, dreaming of becoming someone strong like him. His father had proudly lifted him in his arms, assuring him that he would inherit a powerful ability. After all, he was his son. But amidst the memory, something strange caught his attention. His father had one eye covered, and even as a child, Kirishima had wondered why. This memory, full of affection and mystery, began to awaken something dormant inside him. The memory remained vivid in Kirishima's mind. His father, with a calm smile and a determined gaze, explained that the scar and the lost eye were proof of something valuable. He had protected someone important. The family smiled together, and the father knelt before Kirishima to make a request, for him to also become a strong man, someone capable of protecting others. Little Chikushi eagerly accepted, promising to follow that path. Back in the present, Kirishima fell to his knees, eyes misty. He felt like he had failed. Whispering, he apologized to his father for still being far from becoming that kind of man. With clenched fists and a mind full of doubt, Kirishima still believed his abilities were useless. But suddenly, something sparked, an unexpected reaction in his status. He looked on in surprise. His abilities were activating on their own. Not understanding why, something inside him ignited. His eyes hardened, leaving fear behind. In that moment, hesitation vanished. With a clear decision in his heart, he turned on his heels and ran toward the dungeon. Even not knowing what awaited him, Kirishima had chosen to stop running. The battle had already begun when Miru was thrown to the ground, gasping for air and wounded. The creature's roar echoed throughout the dungeon, and for the first time, fear dominated her face. She tried to recover, but the sight before her was impossible to ignore. A gigantic monster, with murderous eyes, was closing in. It was real. Everything Kirishima had warned her about was true. Cornered and with no time to escape, Miru realized she had underestimated the danger. And now, even as a rank A adventurer, she was facing something far beyond what she could handle alone. As the monster advanced to finish the attack, something within Kirishima awakened. His ability, once considered useless, evolved with the combat experience. A new function activated. He could now ignore the enemy's attack power. Without hesitation, he sprang into action. With steady eyes and his body in motion, he struck directly at the creature. The impact was real. The monster felt it. Shouting loudly, Kirishima moved forward, finally using his ability with pride. Even with over 10,000 people watching and comments doubting his strength, Kirishima remained firm in the battlefield. The colossal monster watched, ready to crush him, but now the fight had changed. With a precise strike, Kirishima cut down one of the smaller creatures and sent it flying. The impact was so massive that everyone was left in shock. The spectators, Miru, and even the magical familiar began to recognize him. The boy from Tsukishima High, who everyone had thought was useless. Now, in front of everyone, he was someone else. No one could ignore the name Kirishima anymore. Kirishima, still in disbelief, stared at the fallen dragon's body. Had he really defeated that creature? His ability, once despised, had ignored the enemy's attack power, and with that, he had managed to bring it down. With his eyes locked on the sword and his heart racing, he realized with this strength, he could protect someone. He could protect Miru. She, in shock, looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. The boy who everyone had despised was now between her and danger. But the threat wasn't over. The dragon rose. Kirishima understood that his technique only negated offensive power. It didn't cause real damage. And now the enemy was preparing a new magical attack. Kirishima warned Miru. The dragon was about to unleash a breath attack, the most devastating type, and magical. Inside the dungeon, there were two types of attacks, physical and magical. Kirishima's ability worked well against brute force, but against this kind of magic, the effect was still unknown. The dragon inhaled deeply and released its breath violently. Kirishima tried to activate his ability again, but didn't know if it would be enough. The shield was weak. He felt trapped. He had missed the timing of the move. With no time to think, he activated his power. Ignore attack power. The magical wave hit them full force. The explosion threw them both far away. The impact was enormous. Kirishima struggled to get up, coughing amid the debris. His body hurt, and his ability didn't work against the magical attack as he had expected. But then, his eyes widened. The dungeon entrance, the only way out, was completely blocked. The fallen rocks prevented any escape. There was no way out. The only option was to face the dragon to the end. Holding his sword tightly, he understood what he had to do. Even scared, he couldn't hesitate anymore. Miru, with tears in her eyes and holding her sword tightly, recognized through her sobs the mistake she had made. She had ignored Kirishima's warning, even though he had only wanted to help. Now, wounded and regretful, she apologized. Not only for not listening to him, but for judging him wrongly. If she had paid attention from the beginning, everything could have been different. Kirishima's father's words echoed once again in his mind. Never be someone who only thinks of themselves. Become a man who protects others. With a firm look, Kirishima heard his name come from Miru's mouth with sincerity for the first time. In the midst of the chaos, Kirishima had an idea. He knew his ability could nullify physical attacks, so if he could draw the dragon's attention, he could prevent another breath attack. With renewed courage, he explained the plan to Miru. If she used her holy swordsmanship ability while he distracted the creature, they might have a real chance. Even doubting his own strength, he spoke with confidence. Miru hesitated for a moment. Miru regained her composure after crying and showed confidence, ready to act. She felt embarrassed for having shown weakness, but decided to give her best. As the dragon prepared to attack, she planned to use her strongest technique, but she needed time. Kirishima understood and positioned himself to face the monster, taking on the role of distraction to help her. Miru prepared to use her most powerful technique, known by all as brute force strategy. The special ability called Big Bang Slash was exclusive to those with the Holy Swordsman skill and was strong enough to defeat high-level monsters with a single blow. However, this technique required a lot of focus and time to charge before it could be used in real combat. The boy and Miru faced each other determined. He gripped his sword firmly, ready to distract the dragon, while she focused on using her final technique. Both showed confidence in each other. The boy ran and caught the dragon's attention with a challenging smile. The monster turned toward him, allowing Miru to prepare her final strike, her sword wrapped in energy. Barely avoiding the attacks, he managed to activate his ability at the right moment, blocking the creature's brutal strike. While fighting, he remembered his father's teachings about perseverance and sword training. He had been reluctant when he was young, but now he understood the value of effort. With steady eyes, he faced the danger. Even knowing that a mistake in using his ability could be fatal, he remained determined. The hard training with his father was beginning to show results. The protagonist activated his abilities while recalling his training with his father. He channeled everything he had learned, from the sword to what he had seen in videos, to face the dragon. With determination in his eyes, he launched a powerful strike and hit the enemy squarely, knocking the creature down with a devastating impact. The girl began to concentrate all her energy with the sword in her hands, surrounded by intense magical effects. Her eyes opened firmly. She was ready. The boy understood the message and immediately moved away from the battlefield. The warrior leaped with force, shouting and channeling all her power to launch the final blow against the dragon, which looked startled at what was about to happen. Miru focused all her power with the sword, surrounded by an intense aura. The boy watched, impressed. When she was ready, she jumped in the air and delivered a direct strike to the dragon. The cut was so powerful it pierced the creature, sending it crashing to the ground with a thud. The massive beast fell defeated. Miru spoke to the boy, saying that she was just tired. She smiled, recognizing that it was thanks to him they had won. As the atmosphere began to calm, something moved behind her. The dragon, still alive, began to rise. Miru turned around in alarm and shouted a warning. The boy noticed something coming toward him, but couldn't react in time. The dragon released a powerful attack that hit him squarely, throwing him away with brutal force. Miru watched in desperation and ran to him, but the boy was gravely injured. Even after the fatal strike, the dragon rose, looking even fiercer. Miru, exhausted and surprised, realized that the final attack hadn't been enough. The dragon began to approach her as she tried to recover, but she was already out of strength to continue. The dragon prepared to crush the warrior, who was defenseless. The protagonist, wounded and cornered, panicked when he saw the danger. He gathered all his strength, remembered his promise, and ran to save her, activating his special ability to ignore the enemy's attack power. He struck the monster's leg at the last moment. The boy stood up, even injured, with his body trembling, and faced the dragon, which still resisted. He knew the enemy was weak after his companion's final blow, but still posed a threat. Determined, he moved forward, using his ability to ignore attack power, even though it caused little damage. At the peak of tension, as he attacked with rage, Miru-san shouted for him to stop. The boy protected Miru with one last attack using his special ability. Even wounded, he kept fighting, and, with everything he had learned, finally managed to bring the dragon down for good. The boy defeated the dragon but collapsed shortly after, unconscious from exhaustion. The woman ran to him, worried, calling his name several times. Even unconscious, he heard her and thought how nice it was to hear her say his name, not fully understanding the situation. The protagonist woke up confused after passing out. He saw a smiling, relieved girl upon finding him alive. Then he realized he was lying on her lap. Surprised and embarrassed, he panicked when he noticed the unexpected situation, while the girl was startled by his reaction. The protagonist stood up embarrassed and thanked her for the help. He tried to understand what had happened, remembering that he had faced the Crimson Dragon, which had been defeated but stood up again. He was surprised to learn that, at the final moment, the impact of the dragon being thrown into the wall had caused its ultimate defeat. A small robot confirmed that the girl had saved him, and the protagonist felt relieved understanding the situation. The girl approached the protagonist with a gentle smile, thanking him for saving her life, and offering to show her gratitude. Extending her hand, she tried to get closer. The protagonist, embarrassed, stepped back and said he didn't need any thanks, claiming he didn't do everything alone. The girl insisted on showing her gratitude, saying she would have died if it weren't for him. She stepped closer with resolve and stared at him seriously, saying she wouldn't rest until she could repay him. The protagonist felt nervous and unsure how to respond. The protagonist felt pressured by the girl's gratitude and didn't know how to refuse without hurting her feelings. Faced with her insistence and the emotional atmosphere, he eventually accepted. The girl then smiled joyfully and thanked him enthusiastically. The girl suggested exchanging contact information, saying it would be a problem if she couldn't find him later. The protagonist was shocked to realize he was about to exchange contacts with someone admired by everyone. Disbelieving, he pinched himself to see if he was dreaming, and even nervous, he ended up accepting. After exchanging contacts, the protagonist noticed that the name displayed on the profile was Miyu, which piqued his curiosity, as he had heard the name before. He began to suspect that this might be her real name. The girl, noticing this, smiled and asked him to keep it a secret, leaving him completely surprised and blushing. The girl invites the protagonist to go out for dinner the next day. Nervous and caught off guard, he agrees without thinking much. Later, at home and in casual clothes, he walks thoughtfully, confused about the situation and wondering how everything happened so quickly. The next day, the protagonist is recognized by some people on the street as the guy who appeared on the famous girl's live stream. He panics when he notices the stares and comments, including criticisms about his appearance. Embarrassed and overwhelmed, he runs away from the scene. While running, the protagonist trips and falls to the ground. A girl approaches, concerned, and helps him up. As he looks at her, he feels like he knows her. The girl also seems to recognize him, asking if he doesn't remember her. The girl reveals herself as Ayatsuki Miya, a classmate from the same grade as him. She confirms she is also Miru, the famous girl he met in the other world. Surprised, the protagonist is speechless. She invites him to come inside with a confident smile, asking if he's surprised by the revelation. At the restaurant, she tells him he can order whatever he wants because she's paying. Nervous about being in a place like that for the first time, he hesitates but ends up ordering a variety of desserts. The girl is surprised by the speed and quantity of the order, but maintains her good humor. While they look at the menu, the girl asks what he will order. The protagonist, still nervous, tries to act naturally, but can hardly believe he's on a one-on-one date with her. She decides to order the same dish, and after they make their orders, they sit facing each other in silence until she calls his name, starting the conversation. During the conversation, the girl says she needs to apologize. She reveals that she knew about the protagonist being bullied at school. Surprised, he tries to understand, but before he can say anything, She firmly states that, no matter the reason, it cannot be ignored, and expresses sincere regret. The girl bows and apologizes sincerely, admitting that she did nothing to help him when he was being bullied. The protagonist recognizes that this is true. He then thinks about the weight of this action, considering that, as a famous streamer, she would be risking her reputation by admitting something like this and trying to fix the past. The protagonist remembers the times he was humiliated by his classmates, forced to kneel and apologize in the hallway. He feels weak and ashamed for not reacting at the time. As he sinks into these negative thoughts, the girl notices his expression and scolds him in a worried tone, saying he's thinking nonsense. The girl notices his discouragement and scolds him firmly, saying he is not a coward. She states that the bullies were the ones at fault, not him, and reinforces that he is a courageous person. Touched by her words, the protagonist thanks her, visibly moved by her sincerity. The girl compliments the protagonist, saying he is handsome and should have more confidence. Surprised, he reacts in disbelief, becoming visibly nervous and embarrassed. Trying to hide it, he doubts the compliment, but she insists with a sincere smile, saying she means it. The protagonist is touched by the statement. The food arrives, and the girl excitedly invites the protagonist to eat together. She tries the food and quickly falls in love with the taste, praising it enthusiastically. The protagonist silently watches her happiness, smiling peacefully, clearly touched by the light and sincere moment between the two. While they talk, the girl reminisces about how he protected her from the dragon without thinking of himself. She says that this made her realize that he didn't deserve to be mocked by anyone, praising his courage and calling him amazing. Embarrassed, he tries to deflect the compliment with humor, but she continues looking at him with sincerity. Determined, the girl holds the protagonist's face and says she wants to show her gratitude in a special way. With a sweet smile, she gets closer and closer, leaving him completely shocked and nervous about the situation. As she leans in, he begins to wonder if the gratitude would be a kiss. Instead of a kiss, the girl takes the protagonist to a beauty salon. Surprised, he asks why, and she reveals excitedly that she wants to give him a complete makeover, calling the idea Tsukushi-kun's makeover operation. With an energetic and happy smile, the protagonist enters the salon while the girl waits outside to keep her identity a secret. He is welcomed by the hairstylist, who is already prepared. After the haircut, he looks at himself in the mirror and is shocked by the result, surprised by how different and much more presentable he looks. Outside the salon, the girl checks something on her phone and beams when she sees that her livestream has surpassed 100 million views. With her arms raised and a smile of pure joy, she celebrates excitedly at the tremendous success of the content. As they walk down the street, the girl hears people commenting about the livestream, praising the boy who appeared in it. She smiles contentedly when she sees it was the most watched video on her channel. With that, she decides eagerly that she will make the protagonist a permanent member of her streams. The protagonist leaves the salon with his new look and calls the girl, thanking her for waiting. When she sees him, she's completely surprised and blushes, running away embarrassed. Trembling with emotion, she admits to herself that he has changed so much, clearly shaken by how handsome he has become. Still embarrassed, the girl finds the protagonist in the hallway and calls him over to talk. She asks him to call her by her real name, Miyu, with a shy smile. He agrees, still nervous, asking if everything is okay. She nods lightly and then asks for a little more of his time, wanting to stay by his side just a bit longer. Sitting on a park bench, the girl suggests that they manage the channel together. The protagonist is surprised by the idea, and she quickly shows him something on her tablet. When he sees the article about her being considered an emergency monster level S, he realizes how big her popularity is, growing even more confused by the proposal. The girl shows the video to the protagonist, revealing that the recording of the battle against the dragon has already reached 100 million views since the night before. She enthusiastically praises him, calling him the amazing high schooler who saved the day. He's surprised by so much attention, while she enjoys the sudden success. The girl shows the comments from the video to the protagonist, who becomes more and more embarrassed by the praise. People call him incredible and strong, even comparing him to other heroes. He tries to escape the situation, saying the most important thing is something else. But she enjoys his reaction while he tries to hide his face out of embarrassment. The girl shows comments asking for the protagonist to become a permanent member of the channel. He's surprised, and she explains that because of this, she wants him to manage the channel with her. Sitting closely, she states that all this success wouldn't have been possible without him, reinforcing that this new phase is also his merit. Miyu jumps into Tsukushi's arms, pleading strongly, "Please, Tsukushi-kun." He's surprised and tries to understand what's happening, while she says, with sparkling eyes, that she's willing to do anything. This leaves his heart racing immediately. Tsukushi realizes he forgot his student ID at the salon and runs to get it. He tells Miyu he'll be back soon, and she, left alone on the bench, starts wondering if she may have crossed a line with what she just did. Tsukushi retrieves his ID at the salon, and the hairstylist, recognizing him as the boy who saved Miru in the live, thanks him with a gift, a jar of ointment. She says it's her way of giving back for him saving her Oshi, favorite idol. The hairstylist mentions that Miru has been doing risky streams and acting restlessly. She personally asks Tsukushi to support and protect Miru, saying she believes only he can do that. Tsukushi understands the message, and the last scene shows Miru moved, thinking that she too believed this. Tsukushi realizes that Miru isn't acting recklessly for no reason. There must be a reason she wants so many views. He understands she isn't the type to act without thinking. After this, he firmly decides, "I understand." As he leaves, the hairstylist praises him, saying he's very reliable. Miru is trying to choose the ideal title for the video, excited about the success. She thinks of several catchy options, but remains unsure between them. Meanwhile, the school bullies appear again, and she kicks one of them without hesitation. Tsukushi is running back to find Miyu, but before he reaches her, 3 guys have already surrounded her, asking about him. One of them gets angry when he learns Tsukushi tried to help, and it seems the situation is about to get tense. Miyu answers without looking down, but she's already sweating from the situation. Tsukushi slaps the bully right in the face when he sees him threatening Miyu, leaving everyone in shock. The guys had been looking for him but didn't recognize the boy with his new look. When he appeared, staring directly at them, Miyu felt proud and thought the makeover was a success. Tsukushi faced the bullies who were bothering Ayatsuki. He shouted firmly that, even though he was hated, he wouldn't forgive anyone who touched her. The guys were surprised by his change of attitude and decided to leave. After that, Ayatsuki looked at him with a smile, while Tsukushi trembled a little, trying to hold back the emotion of the situation. Soon after, Miyu Ayatsuki is left with her heart racing, moved by Tsukushi's actions, and approaches him silently. The next moment, she kisses him unexpectedly. Tsukushi, still shaken by what happened, apologizes for acting impulsively to protect Miyu. She, with a gentle smile, praises him for his courage. Before leaving, she reminds him about the proposal to manage the channel together and asks him to think about it kindly. As she walks away, Tsukushi's heart races, clearly touched by everything that happened that day. Miyu walks away, but soon starts running, overwhelmed with guilt and thinking she may have crossed a line. Meanwhile, elsewhere, someone frustrated yells on the phone about still not having found Kirishima. The person becomes even angrier upon hearing comments about him being called handsome, throwing the phone on the ground in rage. After all the fallout from the viral video, an old bully begins receiving a flood of offensive and mocking messages. Once feared, he is now the target of jokes and disdain online. Feeling humiliated and powerless, he blames Tsukushi, the boy he used to bully. Overcome by anger and frustration, he vows revenge. Guyama becomes furious upon realizing his plan to embarrass Kirishima during the live failed, even after revealing his identity. Filled with frustration, he punches the wall. Then, he starts reading comments on his phone, where they notice he is also a student at Tsukishima. Some mock him, calling him God of Destruction, while others criticize him for his lack of sense. Without words, he watches everything and turns off the lights in his room. A girl appears dressed as an idol, surrounded by bright lights and decorations of a character named Miru-tan. She smiles excitedly. Guyama gets excited when he's called God of Destruction during a live stream, believing this title suits him perfectly. He's sure Miru-tan will remember him since he always donates, and his name is frequently announced during the streams. Excited, he types compliments for the virtual idol, while smiling as if completely involved in that world. During a live broadcast, the idol announces that the God of Destruction, known for supporting the channel for a long time, has become a permanent member. Dressed as a knight, he appears by her side. Shortly after, he takes the mic and announces another surprise. He publicly declares that Miru is now his girlfriend, leaving everyone shocked. Guyama is in shock when he sees Kirishima standing next to Miru, publicly assuming the relationship with her. Even trying to convince himself that he's the true star, he can't hide the anger and jealousy. Feeling betrayed and humiliated, he vows not to forgive Kirishima. Tsukushi arrives at school and notices that he's attracting a lot of attention. Other students comment on his appearance, calling him handsome and stylish, not immediately recognizing who he is. Feeling uncomfortable with the attention, he covers his face in embarrassment, finding the situation awkward and difficult to handle. Tsukushi meets Miyu in the school hallway, and she comments on how he's becoming popular. She praises his humility and says that people have started noticing his qualities. Tsukushi doesn't know how to react, embarrassed by the compliments. Miyu then brings up a previous conversation about him becoming a permanent member of something, leaving him surprised and curious. Tsukushi agrees to help Miyu and promises to do his best. Excited by the response, she hugs him in front of everyone, leaving him completely speechless. Embarrassed, Miyu realizes that everyone is watching, but she still doesn't hide her happiness. Some students watch from afar and wonder who is next to Miyu. She makes plans with Tsukushi to meet after class and do something together. He, still a little confused and shy, agrees. The two then say goodbye in a friendly manner and go their separate ways. Tsukushi enters the classroom and attracts everyone's attention, who are surprised by his new look and attitude. Some students recognize him from the live stream with Miru, while others are shocked to see him sitting in Kirishima's place. Embarrassed by the comments, he tries to convince himself it's just a haircut, but can't hide the discomfort from all the attention on him. Tsukushi thinks about how everything changed after the live he participated in. He remembers the moment he protected Miyu and defeated a virtual enemy, and realizes that now he's being treated differently by his classmates. Surprised by this sudden change, he begins to think that maybe he's finally stopped being someone useless. Guyama bursts into the room, yelling Kirishima's name and scaring everyone around him. Consumed by hatred, he demands to know where Kirishima is, his face distorted by anger and tears. Some classmates nervously point to the back of the room, where Tsukushi watches the scene, tense and not understanding the reason for the outburst. Guyama glares at Tsukushi, confused and incredulous, not recognizing him right away. When he realizes who he is, he's even more shocked, calling him the handsome guy who says he's Kirishima. Tsukushi, not understanding the confusion, simply replies that he just got a haircut. Still, Guyama freaks out at hearing this, not accepting Tsukushi's new look. Guyama explodes with rage and grabs Tsukushi by the shirt, yelling that he's the strongest. Jealous of the attention Tsukushi is receiving, he accuses him of thinking highly of himself just because he's become popular. With hatred in his eyes, he promises he'll make him pay for it. Tsukushi is scared by the intensity of the outburst. Guyama challenges Tsukushi to a confrontation, setting the meeting for 8 p.m. in the Tsukigaoka dungeon. He screams that he's serious and storms out of the room in anger, leaving Tsukushi confused. Tsukushi tells Miyu about Guyama's challenge, and she reacts indignantly about his behavior, calling it selfish and one-sided. She reminds him that she had plans after school and criticizes him for not being firmer. Even though Tsukushi acknowledges that she's right, he feels torn and discouraged. Miyu realizes that Tsukushi is blaming himself and tries to cheer him up, telling him that he doesn't have to face everything alone. Even understanding that he has difficulty dealing with people like Guyama, she encourages him and offers to accompany him to the dungeon, determined to support him in the challenge. Tsukushi is surprised. Miyu decides to use the reward she received after defeating the Crimson Dragon, considering this the ideal moment. She accesses an interface and selects a new outfit. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Tsukigaoka Dungeon, where she and Tsukushi are already preparing for the meeting with Guyama. Miyu transforms, wearing her special outfit with confidence and elegance. The scene highlights her beauty and determination. With everything ready, she appears before Tsukushi completely equipped and excited, declaring that she is ready for whatever comes in the dungeon. He is surprised to see her in that striking look. Tsukushi feels awkward seeing Miyu in her special outfit and, when questioned, comments that Miru is very cute, but quickly corrects himself, saying that Miyu is also cute. The response leaves Miyu surprised and unsure how to react, calling it cheating while trying to hide her embarrassment. She then changes the subject and suggests checking the items, trying to refocus. Tsukushi and Miyu analyze the available materials to create a strong weapon, using items from the Crimson Dragon. Among the options, Tsukushi takes an interest in one called the Supreme Demon Sword. However, Miyu says that this weapon is impractical and doesn't recommend its use, suggesting they choose something more efficient for the battle. Miyu explains that the Supreme Demon Sword greatly increases magical attack but drains all MP when magic is used, making it risky. She emphasizes that survival is the most important thing in a dungeon exploration. Tsukushi is still undecided, but soon discovers something new. A skill called Rule Breaker was added that morning, which might change his decision. Tsukushi realizes that he can combine the new skill with the weapon that drains all MP at once. Miyu is impressed by the idea and calls him a genius, excited about the possibility. They decide to create the Supreme Demon Sword and do a live broadcast to showcase it, confident it will draw attention. With time before Guyama arrives, the two get excited and begin preparing everything. Miyu finishes creating the sword and prepares her phone to start the live stream. Excited, she calls Tsukushi to begin the broadcast showing the Supreme Demon Sword. He tries to stay calm but soon notices Guyama's early arrival. Concerned, Tsukushi tries to stop Miyu, feeling that something is wrong. Guyama arrives with two allies, furious to see Tsukushi with Miyu before the battle. One of the henchmen yells, accusing Tsukushi of flirting before the confrontation and questioning whether he is underestimating their boss. Guyama, silently and with a dark expression, seems overwhelmed by the tension of the moment, while his allies defend him aggressively. Guyama, overcome by rage, grabs one of his own allies by the face and throws him to the ground with force, shocking everyone around. Tsukushi and Miyu are surprised by the act, while the other henchman looks on, frightened. Surrounded by a threatening aura, Guyama demands an explanation from Tsukushi, with a tense smile, ready to explode. Guyama, in shock and furious, points at Tsukushi and demands to know why Mirutan is with him. Out of control, he screams, asking what the relationship between the two is. Tsukushi and Miyu are surprised and unsure how to respond to Guyama's exaggerated reaction. Guyama panics, misinterpreting the situation and thinking that Miyu and Tsukushi are already in a romantic relationship. Tsukushi quickly tries to explain, denying that it is that kind of relationship, but Miyu looks visibly embarrassed, unable to hide her discomfort. Guyama watches Tsukushi and Miyu very close, with a romantic atmosphere, and surrounded by flowery effects. The scene shocks him, and he imagines the worst. Unable to bear the sight, he explodes in fury, shouting Tsukushi's name with all his might, completely consumed by jealousy and hatred. A famous streamer and explorer watches Miru's live stream with his daughter, commenting that she was saved by Tsukushi. The broadcast reaches over 20,000 viewers, and the online comments praise the feat. The girl recognizes Tsukushi as a classmate and is surprised to see him gaining so much attention. Madoka, still surprised, wonders when Tsukushi became so cool. Meanwhile, others watch the live stream and discuss what is happening, confused by Miru's involvement. One of the guests on the stream, who had already interacted with Tsukushi, publicly praises him as someone trustworthy, polite, and well-behaved, which only increases the contrast with Guyama's exaggerated reaction. Guyama screams, excited, saying that only he is worthy of being by Mirutan's side. He displays his mirrored black dragon armor and the powerful Noken sword, trying to impress everyone. Meanwhile, the streamer who is following the live stream recognizes the power of the equipment, but his daughter is unfazed and calls Guyama trash and an idiot, clearly enraged by his behavior. Guyama declares the duel and demands Tsukushi draw his weapon. Miyu encourages him, asking him to show his true power. Tsukushi accepts firmly and without hesitation, prepares the powerful Supreme Demon Sword, activating it in the system with confidence, ready to face the challenge. Tsukushi reveals the Supreme Demon Sword, leaving everyone in shock. The weapon emits an intense and imposing aura, recognized as extremely rare. Even the livestream viewers are impressed. Guyama and his allies react surprised, while he curses Tsukushi for obtaining such a powerful weapon. Tsukushi grips the Supreme Demon Sword firmly, while viewers comment on his choice. The weapon, despite increasing magical attack by plus 5,000 just by being equipped, consumes all MP in a single use, making it considered impractical for real combat. Nevertheless, Tsukushi's decision draws attention, and the audience starts to find the situation even more interesting. Guyama mocks Tsukushi's choice, calling the Supreme Demon Sword the perfect weapon for an idiot, since it consumes all MP at once. Meanwhile, Tsukushi ignores the taunts and turns to Miyu, calmly calling her. Seeing his reaction, Miyu reflects in silence, feeling small in comparison to Tsukushi's courage and attitude. Miyu interrupts the discussion, firmly defending Tsukushi and telling Guyama to stop verbally attacking him. She then announces aloud that she has decided to make him a permanent member of the channel. The revelation shocks both the viewers and Guyama, who reacts shocked and confused by the decision. After the announcement, the chat explodes with excited comments about Tsukushi becoming a permanent member of the channel. Meanwhile, he and Miyu wonder if the broadcast is still active. Miyu, thinking she had turned it off, says she shut it down, but the viewers confirm that the live stream is still ongoing, leaving everyone embarrassed. Guyama becomes furious, shouting that he will prove he is better than Tsukushi and that he will regret this. Soon after, he charges forward, releasing a huge boost in attack power. Tsukushi prepares, and Miyu cheers for him with a smile. "Do your best, Tsukushi-kun." Guyama jumps, shouting "Die!" and attempts a direct physical attack. Tsukushi activates a special ability, ignore the opponent's attack power, saying that physical attacks won't work on him. But even so, he knows he is at a disadvantage. Guyama is a rank A explorer and a veteran. Nervously, Tsukushi thinks, "What should I do?" Tsukushi easily stops Guyama's attack with the ultimate demon sword, which was supposed to be impractical. While Guyama is in shock, Tsukushi comments that the blow was light. He then prepares to counterattack with a kick, catching Guyama completely off guard. Tsukushi springs into action with his demon sword, easily dodging Guyama's attack and counterattacking with precision and speed. The blow sends him crashing into the wall, leaving him stunned and embarrassed in front of everyone. Even humiliated, Guyama refuses to accept defeat. He shakes with rage and frustration, claiming that it was cheating, while his allies try to help him. Determined to turn the tide, he resorts to a power-enhancing potion, looking to increase his strength to continue the fight. Guyama, now energized by the potion, feels his resistance increase and prepares to crush Tsukushi with full force. Meanwhile, the audience following the live stream reacts indignantly, criticizing the use of items considered unfair, but still rooting for Tsukushi to win anyway. Kirishima faces Guyama, who starts a direct attack with his sword. Despite the strength, Kirishima easily blocks the blow, surprising the enemy. He then counterattacks with a powerful kick that sends Guyama flying. Wounded and frustrated, Guyama drinks a power-enhancing potion and prepares to continue. Meanwhile, Kirishima stands firm and decides to use his new ability. Even with the item's magic restrictions, he ignores the limits and fires off a massive fireball with attack bonuses. During the duel, Kirishima Tsukushi surprises everyone by blocking Guyama's attack, a veteran and A rank. He quickly counterattacks, throwing the enemy against the wall. Even under pressure, Guyama refuses to lose and drinks a power-enhancing potion, which angers those watching. Tsukushi remains calm and activates a new ability, releasing a powerful fireball boosted by the demon sword. The attack collides with force, causing a massive explosion. Despite the impact, Guyama survives, laughing, while Tsukushi feels the effects of the spell's cost, running out of magic energy. Even exhausted, he decides to continue and prepares his next secret ability. Tsukushi activates a new ability that ignores mana consumption, allowing him to use the demon sword without limitations. With this, he begins firing several consecutive fireballs, maintaining the weapon's maximum power without suffering penalties. Miyu watches, impressed, realizing that his strategy is working perfectly. Tsukushi begins launching multiple fireballs in sequence at Guyama, using the demon sword and his new ability that ignores MP consumption. Surrounded by explosions, Guyama tries to react, but he is completely overwhelmed. The explosions spread violently. After mastering basic fire magic, Tsukushi prepares to test more advanced spells, wielding the demon sword still energized. However, before he could continue, Miyu approaches and interrupts his excitement, indicating that it's enough for now. After the sequence of magical attacks, the impact was so strong that Guyama collapsed unconscious on the floor, completely defeated. His body lies motionless against the destroyed wall, making it clear that he can no longer continue fighting. With Guyama out of combat, Tsukushi is declared the winner. Miyu celebrates excitedly by his side, raising the boy's arm in a victory gesture. Meanwhile, the viewers react with surprise and admiration, recognizing Tsukushi's feat in defeating the one known as the God of Destruction. With Tsukushi's victory confirmed, the audience explodes with donations and praise during the broadcast. His popularity reaches a new level, with thousands of viewers watching. Meanwhile, something starts to stir on the battlefield, signaling that the situation is still not fully resolved. Even defeated and with his armor destroyed, Guyama rises, consumed by rage. He refuses to accept defeat and screams that he will not forgive Tsukushi. Meanwhile, Miyu realizes that Tsukushi has yet to show all his potential. The threat of a second confrontation arises, but now the mood shifts. Tsukushi's confidence and the surprise in the enemy's eyes show that the conclusion is still far from certain. The battle between Tsukushi and Guyama comes to an end with Tsukushi's overwhelming victory after creatively using the demon sword, along with a skill that ignores MP restrictions. The impact of his fire attacks was so strong that it destroyed Guyama's armor and caused a huge commotion among the viewers. With the audience impressed and donations rolling in on the livestream chat, Miru celebrates the outcome by declaring Tsukushi the winner and a new permanent member of the channel. Even though defeated, Guyama tries to maintain his pride, but is reminded that there is nothing more to be done. In a spectator's room, a woman watches everything with coldness and comments on the similarity between Tsukushi and his father, hinting at a past that will still be revealed. During the night, Tsukushi is woken up by the persistent ringing of his phone. Still sleepy, he answers the call and immediately encounters alarming news. His expression changes to one of concern as he realizes something serious is happening. Tsukushi wakes up to a call and discovers that his battle with Guyama has gone viral. He is now the center of attention, being mentioned on various websites and social media. The media calls him the hero of the school and starts questioning Guyama's behavior, accusing him publicly of bullying. The repercussions of the fight take on national proportions. Tsukushi realizes that the fallout from his fight is spiraling out of control. He reads exaggerated comments about himself, even being called a saint by netizens. As he tries to process everything, he receives a call from Miyu, who praises his actions and reinforces that putting him on the stream was a great decision. After ending the call, Tsukushi lets out a relieved sigh. Despite still doubting the impact he's had, he begins to think that perhaps he has helped someone. A small smile appears as he looks at his phone, feeling for the first time that he might be making a difference. Upon arriving at school, Tsukushi is surprised by a crowd of classmates. They surround him, wanting photos and handshakes, praising his actions in the duel. He, embarrassed by the sudden attention, tries to apologize, clearly unsure how to handle the unexpected fame. Tsukushi runs toward the school, late, but as he gets closer, he is surrounded by a crowd of reporters. Cameras and microphones point at him as questions are fired from all sides about his relationship with Miru, bullying, and his abilities. Confused and scared, he tries to understand what is happening. Surrounded by questions, Tsukushi becomes paralyzed and nervous, unsure how to react. At that moment, a girl approaches silently and holds his hand. Without saying anything, she pulls him away from the crowd, leaving everyone behind, confused and surprised by her unexpected move. After pulling Tsukushi out of the confusion, the girl introduces herself as Madoka Yamauchi. She thanks him for everything and, without hesitation, surprises him with a sudden declaration. The girl, with a sparkle in her eyes and a sincere smile, asks to date him, leaving Tsukushi completely speechless. Madoka gets even closer to Tsukushi and, taking advantage of the fact that they are alone, speaks with a determined look and a teasing expression. Tsukushi, completely caught off guard, panics in the situation, visibly unsure how to react. Miyu arrives and interrupts Madoka's approach to Tsukushi, clearly irritated. The situation leaves Tsukushi even more confused and embarrassed, not understanding why he's apologizing. Then, another girl appears, reprimanding Madoka and making it clear that only Miru can call him in such an intimate manner. The atmosphere grows even tenser with the direct confrontation between the girls. Miyu asserts herself, saying that she is Tsukushi's best friend, and that if she doesn't approve, then there's no chance. Madoka responds firmly, making it clear she is serious. The two exchange tense glares, and the situation falls directly on Tsukushi, who finds himself pressured by both, unsure how to react. The argument between the two girls heats up, with each defending their position regarding Tsukushi. The tension rises until Miyu takes the initiative and pulls Tsukushi by the hand, saying that they will be late. He, visibly nervous, tries to apologize to Madoka as he is taken away, leaving the other girl standing, frustrated. Miyu walks sullenly through the halls, clearly bothered by the previous situation. Tsukushi tries to understand the reason for her anger but can't figure out the exact cause. Even with the insecurity, he reaffirms that he doesn't intend to back down. Miyu, still upset, hints that she might have interrupted something important, but stays by his side, even though she is jealous. Tsukushi explains that he is focused on helping his mother, which is why he isn't thinking about romance right now. Miyu listens with a sad look and apologizes, realizing that he has been facing everything alone. Curious and concerned, she asks about his father, wanting to understand more about his past. During an emergency battle against a monster, Guyama ended up losing his life. The news shocks Miyu, who freezes upon hearing the revelation. Later, Kirishima talks to her and says that this happened a long time ago. Despite her guilt, he reassures her and reveals that he is not the perfect hero everyone claims. He remembers few things about his father, but never forgot the promise to protect those he loves. Tsukushi, determined to follow his father's words, decides to continue doing his best. Miyu watches him emotionally as he motivates himself, remembering his own purpose. Shortly after, she encourages him with a sincere smile, reinforcing that he is already trying hard enough. He thanks her with a light smile, feeling supported and confident. Kento wakes up to a bombardment of messages mocking him for his defeat. Stressed and panicking, he blames someone else for the situation. He then receives a call from the school informing him that he must report to the principal's office immediately, or he will be expelled. On the other side, Tsukushi sees it as just another annoyance with someone he doesn't even know. Kento is surprised when he encounters an imposing woman who calls him by name. Terrified, he tries to justify himself. But she, serious and firm, tells him to calm down. It's Guyama Yayoi, an S-class explorer with the ability to summon monsters. Yayoi assures him that she can cover up the entire situation without any problems, just as she did in the past. She reminds her son what happens when someone threatens her family. With confidence and coldness, she takes responsibility and tells him to leave everything to her. Yayoi walks determined toward the principal's office, making it clear that she will make someone feel the same pain they caused in the past. The sign on the door indicates that the confrontation will happen in the principal's office. In the principal's office, Kento receives the news that he will be suspended for a year due to the negative impact of his actions on the school's reputation. The punishment, considered mild, also reflects the institution's responsibility for ignoring bullying cases. Even accepting the punishment imposed on Kento, Yayoi makes it clear that she also has a request. She shifts the topic to Kirishima Tsukushi, catching the principal by surprise and changing the course of the conversation. Yayoi proposes that Tsukushi, even though he was a victim in the situation, also be suspended. The insinuation leaves the principal confused and shocked, not understanding the logic behind the proposal, while she pressures him as if there's something more behind her actions. Yayoi reveals her position as the director of the government agency responsible for explorers, making it clear the power she holds. She threatens the principal, saying that she will use the media to blame Tsukushi during Kento's suspension. Her plan is to reverse the narrative and make it appear that Tsukushi is the real culprit. A monstrous creature, formed by a combination of a dragon and a wolf, is summoned impressively, with its fierce mouths and powerful threats. A man, visibly worried, observes what is happening around him, while another, older and more authoritative in appearance, seems to take a serious stance. The protagonist, visibly apprehensive, approaches a door. His expression is one of surprise.